Professor Walter Gaines was pacing at the front of the lecture hall, his voice booming as he delivered yet another of his famously demanding engineering lectures. His tenure at the university had given him an aura of untouchability. Students whispered about his cutting remarks and condescending demeanor, especially when it came to those he viewed as outsiders or undeserving of the institution's prestige. Gaines believed himself to be the gatekeeper of academic rigor, and he took pride in weeding out students he deemed unfit. Emil Santiago sat quietly in the middle row, scribbling notes with intense focus. He was a Filipino student on scholarship, his journey to this elite university marked by hard work and sacrifice. His family had rallied behind his dream to study engineering, and he carried their hopes with him like an invisible banner. Emil was soft-spoken, with slight accent that sometimes drew unnecessary attention from others. He had learned to steel himself against the subtle and not-so-subtle prejudices he encountered, focusing instead on his studies and his goal of creating technologies that could improve lives. Gaines's sharp eyes caught sight of Emil as he raised his hand to ask a question about the day's complex equations. The professor narrowed his gaze, his lips curling into a faint smirk. "Yes, Mr. Santiago," Gaines drawled, emphasizing his name with exaggerated precision. "I suppose you have a profound insight to share?" The lecture hall grew quiet, and all eyes turned to Emil. He cleared his throat, his voice steady but quiet. "I was wondering if you could elaborate on the second equation. The application seems broader than the example you provided." Gaines chuckled, a sound that carried no warmth. "Broader applications, you say? Well, Mr. Santiago, I suppose they might seem broader if you haven't grasped the fundamentals yet. Are you sure you're in the right class?" The remark drew a few awkward chuckles from the room. Emil's cheeks burned, but he forced himself to meet Gaines's gaze. "I believe I am, sir." Gaines waved a dismissive hand. "Very well. Perhaps you'll figure it out in due time. Or not. Now let's move on." Emil sank back into his seat, the sting of humiliation washing over him. Around him, a few classmates exchanged sympathetic glances, but no one spoke up. Gaines's authority was too intimidating to challenge. Emil clenched his fists under the desk, resolving to let the professor's words fuel his determination instead of break him. Over the weeks that followed, Gaines continued to target Emil with subtle jabs and pointed critiques. In group discussions, he would interrupt Emil mid-sentence, questioning his ideas more harshly than those of other students. When Emil presented a project proposal for a cutting-edge renewable energy system, Gaines dismissed it as ambitious but impractical. "You might want to scale back your ideas to something more achievable, Mr. Santiago," Gaines said during a project review. "Start with the basics before aiming for the stars." But Emil didn't scale back. Instead, he poured his energy into his project, refining his design late into the night at the campus library and experimenting in the engineering lab whenever he could. His proposal, a compact and affordable energy converter for underdeveloped communities, was inspired by his childhood in the Philippines, where he had witnessed firsthand the struggle of families without reliable electricity. Emil knew his idea could make a difference, and he refused to let Gaines's disdain stop him. Word spread among Emil's peers about his dedication, and a small circle of classmates began to rally around him. They offered encouragement, feedback, and help with testing his designs. One of his professors outside of Gaines's sphere took notice and encouraged Emil to enter his project into a prestigious national innovation competition. Though hesitant at first, Emil realized it was an opportunity to prove himself, not just to Gaines, but to everyone who doubted him. As Emil worked tirelessly on his submission, Gaines seemed to grow more dismissive. He noticed Emil's absences from his usual study group and the increasing buzz around his project, but he scoffed at the idea of Emil achieving anything noteworthy. "Some students get too caught up in their own hype," Gaines muttered during one lecture, casting a pointed glance in Emil's direction. The day of the competition announcement arrived. The university hosted a formal event in the grand auditorium, with faculty, students, and community members in attendance. It was a moment of celebration for innovation and achievement, and the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation as attendees awaited the announcement of the winners. Gaines sat in the front row, his arms crossed and his expression bored. He had little interest in the competition, viewing it as a distraction from real academic work. He noticed Emil seated several rows back, flanked by a few supportive classmates. Gaines rolled his eyes, confident that Emil's name would not be among the winners. The host took the stage, his voice echoing through the room as he introduced the competition and its significance. After listing the honorable mentions and third-place winner, he paused dramatically before announcing the recipient of the National Innovation Award. This year's award goes to an extraordinary young mind whose project demonstrates both ingenuity and a commitment to solving real-world problems. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Emil Santiago for his groundbreaking work on renewable energy solutions. The auditorium erupted in applause. Emil froze for a moment, the weight of the moment sinking in, before he rose to his feet. His classmates cheered loudly as he made his way to the stage, where the host handed him the award and motioned for him to speak. Gaines sat motionless, his face pale, and his mouth slightly agape. The realization hit him like a tidal wave. The student he had belittled, dismissed, and humiliated had just achieved what few could ever dream of. He fumbled for a neutral expression as the audience's applause thundered around him, but the humiliation was undeniable. At the podium, Emil's voice rang out, clear and steady. "Thank you. This award means so much to me, not just for the recognition of my work, but for what it represents. Growing up, I saw how lack of access to reliable energy impacted lives and limited opportunities. That experience inspired me to pursue this project with a hope that it can make a difference." He paused, glancing toward the audience. "I've learned that the road to innovation isn't always easy. It's filled with challenges, setbacks, and sometimes doubt from those around you. But I also learned that perseverance, support from those who believe in you, and staying true to your purpose can lead to incredible things." The audience erupted into applause once more, many standing to give Emil a standing ovation. Gaines remained seated, his hands clapping weakly as he avoided eye contact with anyone around him. The days following Emil's victory were transformative. The university spotlighted his achievement in their publications and social media, drawing attention to his journey. But the increased visibility also brought scrutiny. Students began sharing stories about Gaines's behavior, and Emil's experience became a rallying cry for accountability and inclusivity within the institution. The administration launched an investigation into Gaines's conduct, reviewing years of complaints and testimonies that had been overlooked. The professor was forced to issue a public apology, and his reputation took a significant hit. Though he retained his position, his influence and authority were diminished, and he faced mandatory training on equity and professionalism. Emil's triumph became a symbol of resilience and determination, inspiring other students from marginalized backgrounds to pursue their goals despite systemic barriers. Under the mentorship of faculty members who recognized his potential, Emil continued to excel, using his newfound platform to advocate for more inclusive academic spaces. Gaines, meanwhile, was left to grapple with the consequences of his actions. Emil's success had not only exposed his prejudices, but also highlighted his failure as an educator. For the first time in years, he was forced to confront the impact of his arrogance and reconsider his role in shaping the next generation of thinkers and innovators. As Emil graduated with honors and moved on to further his work in renewable energy, his story remained a testament to the power of perseverance and the importance of fostering environments where everyone, regardless of their background, could thrive. In the end, it wasn't just Emil's award that mattered. It was the change he inspired, proving that resilience and integrity could triumph over prejudice and doubt.